makes us a little crazy. Lovely program. My concern, I'm trying to step out. I've been doing it for a number of years, and one person already left. My co-chair left before me, and now it's me and some others. And now I'm curious about transitioning, if anybody knows how to do that, because I've been doing it for 28 years and it's time to let others lead. And we're not getting a lot of buy-in from Rotarians. Love RYLA. Yes, it's the best experience of their life. They make new friends. I've brought every grandchild I have, even from out of state, to our RYLA when we can.
Yeah. Yeah, transition is an important issue. I experienced that. I jumped into the director of our RYLA program, and I had a feeling like I was going to be there forever. But once I became, chose to be my club's president, I said I can't do both, and I've managed to maintain a connection, but transition out of the leadership role. But that's an interesting.
It's a huge
issue.
job. Who really wants to run RYLA? When you come right down to it, really,
yeah.
Who would do that? It takes a special people like us, and we got to find those others.
Yeah, well, the trick that I found is that when I started, it was a committee of 2 who ran RYLA, and we've developed it into a functioning committee of 20. A steering committee. And that's good for you. You can't do everything.
Nope.
Okay, who'd like to go next?
Hi. Steve? Steve, did you want to go or?
No, Ed, go ahead.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Ed Kerming. I'm part of the District 5170, and I'm the director of the leadership program. I went to camp in 1998 and then returned in 2002. I think I've been in this role as the director of leadership programming for almost a decade. And at least it's funny because I actually live and work in LA, but I'm I'm a lifer with District 5170. So I'm really happy to be here
if you want
and to learn from y'all. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that's coming up for us is thinking about, like the various gender expressions that our students have, and because of like sleeping arrangements and the way it's set up, that's been something that we've been grappling with to make it. I know I've heard a lot of discussion around inclusion, but really just honoring our students' gender identities. And they might feel more inclined to do so in a space with peers, but when we're intaking them and they need a parent signature, and they might not necessarily be out as a gender nonconforming or as a trans student, that's some of the pieces that we're trying to navigate. And the last thing I want to share is, our program is really focused on justice and equity, and Interact 5170 has been really doing a wonderful job since we've kind of had to go virtual, to really think about the particular moment we're experiencing beyond just the pandemic, but also thinking about activism, learning around youth organizing and Black Lives Matter, issues around race and racism that have been happening and occurring. And so we've been having conversations about ways to really engage that for leaders, especially since that's where a lot of the youth focus has been on right now. How do we respond to that and think about that along the lines with service? So I'm happy to discuss more of those ideas that we've come up with and share some of our best practices that we've learned over the past days. I'm gonna pass it to my colleague Jen Chang, so it's a continuation of 5170.
Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Chang. I'm the District RYLA Chair and Camp Director for 5170. We are in the California Bay Area, or San Francisco Bay Area, and we cover most of the Peninsula, South Bay, and East Bay. Along with Ed and I were actually campers together in 1998, and I've been on RYLA staff since 2002, and so have been involved with RYLA from the planning side for about 18 years now. And so, yeah, like Ed was saying, we are trying to navigate those challenges right now of, dealing with, or how to best handle kids who are, dealing with gender identity. In addition to that, our camp is very focused on building the relationships with each other. And so for this year in particular, as we're going virtual this summer, we're really trying to tackle how to build relationships in a virtual context. And I will pass it to Grace, who is our third person on the call from our district.
I think she left.
Oh, she
But
did.
I wanted
Okay,
to
never mind.
share, Elise, we've instituted for the past 3 years an internship program. So the folks that are planning the camp year round, now we have essentially interns who are not fetching us coffee or anything, but it's really to see the behind the scenes about how do these things work, and they kind of get the behind the curtain of everything, to see all that. So that's been kind of like one of the ways in which we've been trying to grow our leadership internally, and as well as recruit from the outside. But Steve, sorry, I know you were next, and I love your library. I'm curious to see all those books.
Oh, thank you very much. So my name's Steve Singer. I'm with District 5190. We actually run a joint RYLA program with District 5180, total of about 90 clubs from Sacramento north and east into Nevada, all the way out to the Utah border. We run 3 6-day sessions with about 100 to 110 students each. Students are selected by the participating 90 clubs. Fee is $760. I've been involved in the program for about 20 years now. We have paid program directors. Dean and Rochelle Wellams have been running our program since 2006. They do a magnificent job of keeping students engaged and alert and attentive. Our focus really is on self-awareness, recognizing that one can't be a leader until one can lead oneself. We use the Emergenetic STEP profile as a mandatory tool for all participants, including Rotarians and counselors. This is self-assessment. It's taken online and allows us to take our students and assign them to work groups of typically 10 or 11 students, where each one has a slightly different profile, but these brain groups pair students with very different approaches to problem solving. And the takeaway obviously is that there's a leadership role for every student to play based on their strengths as opposed to their weaknesses, and that recognizing the potential of the fellow 9 or 10 students to equally be important as leaders is really at the heart of our program.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you recall, Steve, but 8 or 9 years ago when I took over our RYLA, I actually talked to you because I was looking at, reaching out to other camps and getting ideas on what to do within our camp. And that was very helpful.
I do remember that, David. We also met at the meeting in Evanston some years ago.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, that was quite an exciting opportunity.
Yes, it was. Well, I guess it was the genesis for this group.
Yeah. Anna, you want to say something?
Hi there. This is Anna. I'm from the District of 5150, South San Francisco. So I work alongside David. And some of the things that I do for RYLA is the assessment. And so we try to do the forms and see where the students or the campers are at. And something that we've been trying to roll out has been a pre-form to see, what are the camper interests and any information that we need to know from that. And I really like the idea that Ed brought forth is, how do campers want to be addressed and how do they identify? So I think that that's going to be really important for engagement, is that, if they're named, one thing, but they really want to be, named a different name, then being fully aware so that the facilitators know how to address the campers and participants. I think that's a big point. So thank you, Ed, for bringing that up.
Okay. Well,
Anna,
thank you.
can I build off of that for Anna? So one of the ways that we
Sure.
do that is we built a culture so that folks introduce their pronouns. And I think too, one of the things that we were cognizant of is also the campers would write their own pronouns versus us assigning their pronoun. So that's actually been really good too. And one of our counselors found an Etsy site that sells stickers that you could just kind of like have. So that's actually been one of the ways that we've done it. So I'm from the Bay, Anna, so I'd love to connect with you later.
Ed, I'd like to ask you a question here. Do you find that this is Steve speaking. Do you find that most, if not all, students are prepared to share their gender pronoun?
That's a good question, Steve. I think it, for folks whose gender identities are mainstream or more normative, meaning binary male female, I think it's more of like an adjustment to like have to share that. Hi, my name is Ed. I use he, him pronouns. But for folks that are gender nonconforming, that's affirming to them for others to create the space to share their pronouns. Or in other words, by building that culture, it allows folks to kind of shift to do that. And if I'm a trans woman, but I'm presenting as a man right now, that kind of piece around validity and representation actually goes a long way. And we've seen transitions with our campers and our staff over the past several years.
Ed, how do you place them in cabins?
Great question. Our camp is still very binary, meaning we have a boys' side and a girls' side. And so what we do is whatever they're assigned at birth, what they put on their forms, that's where they'll go. We've had recent instances where a trans girl was placed on a different side, but we were able to talk to that camper and ask them, where do you feel most comfortable being on which side? And then we've also had to work with our facility to have a all gender restroom on campus.
On our application form 2 years ago, we gave students the opportunity to choose either male, female, or other. And when it's other, we make a personal contact, just as you suggested, Ed, and find out where they want to be most comfortable. And we've made it clear in all of our literature to our parents that we will not discriminate on the basis of gender. And to date, we've not had any problem. In fact, those few instances where students have publicly announced themselves as transitioning or having a gender change has usually been a very uplifting and enlightening experience for all of our population. And I might add, we have a very multicultural population, because we draw not only from white Nevada, but from Asian, Hispanic, Black, Sacramento region. So a real diverse group.
Okay. All right. Becky, you'd like to go next?
Sure. My name is Becky Fontaine. I'm in District 5020, which is actually Washington and part of Washington and Vancouver Island. We do 2 RYLA camps, one in conjunction with District 5030, which is Seattle King County. And then we have had, for the past couple of years, a RYLA camp on Vancouver Island itself. The Vancouver Island one was targeted towards a slightly younger population. RYLA Northwest, in conjunction with 5030, is high school kids. And I'm actually here to learn as much as I can from you. I am the District Youth Protection Officer and have had a lot of experience with youth exchange, but not a lot with RYLA. So I'm liking what I'm hearing so far, though, particularly about how we deal with our youth and how we make our events more inclusive.
Okay, well, thank you, Becky.
Yep.
Kate, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Cade Plata here from District 5020. So in, I guess, Central Washington, Club of Bremerton Rotary. So I guess the reason why I joined this call is I'm just curious to hear the different perspectives that other RYLAs are having as they're trying to like pave the way forward, especially through COVID times and the challenges that they're facing. So a little bit about myself. I was a RYLArian in 2012 in District 5580, Central Minnesota. And I was a facilitator there for 6 years following that. Very much love RYLA. Became a Rotarian, moved out to Washington out here. And I helped out with the 50-20, 50-30 RYLA Northwest program with Kate Matos. She's leading one of the other sections today. And so I helped out as a facilitator with that. And this year I'm helping out with the program development for RYLA Northwest. So I guess since I kind of have a, I guess, pretty recent, I guess, recollection of the two different types of camps, I'll go over both of those a little bit. So back in 5580, we had an extremely successful in-person camp that would be staged at a university in the summer, and it would be a full week long. So we would have, I guess, students come from all over. We put them up in the dorms there. So because it was in the summer, there'd be a lot of vacancies. So we were able to use that. And then we would use the university's dining facilities, classrooms, like auditoriums, theaters to have speakers. And it was a very sustainable program in terms of, he put on a great program led by the directors and then a bunch of facilitators. And then you'd make it very engaging for the facilitators and of course for the students, the participants. Then at the end of the camp, you would pose the question of, you know, if you enjoyed this experience and you want to provide it for another young individual next year, let us know. And we would reach out to those individuals, and that would be pretty much our base for the following year's facilitators. So, and we would have about, I guess to give perspective on the numbers, maybe about 150 students would go. And I'd say the students were broken up into families of about 8 or so each, and we had enough facilitators to have a male and female facilitator. And so it was kind of like a co-partnership type thing where you could help each other out as you were navigating the debrief discussions throughout the content of that entire week. So very sustainable program, all volunteer based. And the program was built on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, which I really enjoyed. And that was, you know, 7 years of what I focused on in RYLA. So I have that. And then moving out here to the Pacific Northwest, the program for RYLA Northwest has been mainly like a weekend speaker session, which is completely different from the first experience that I've had. So for that, basically there's wonderful speakers that would be lined up for like a condensed program back to back to back. And what we were finding, and Kate and myself are trying to switch it to a more sustainable model that's a bit more engaging. And so we're trying to incorporate more hands-on elements, more like finding a spot for facilitators in the program, which would just, I mean, ideally be returning students from the prior years. And that's kind of
So you're trying to transition that format to a more interactive one?
Yes. And so both Kate and myself had similar experiences growing up with I guess that sustainable RYLA model. And that's what we're trying to incorporate now, because not only does it, if you put on a good experience and you get the students excited to serve again and create a similar experience for others, then you actually put them in charge of part of the program, and you put them in direct contact with the students the following year. And that just creates more and more buy-in, and it continually develops them as leaders. Like I said myself, I was a return facilitator for 6 years, and it was so engaging and such an important part of my life, so much so that it would be like a prerequisite for any job I took. I'd say, I'd love to accept this position, but I got to make sure I'm available for this 1 week.
Wow.
So
all right.
that's
Well,
a little
thank
bit
you,
about
Kate.
my experience.
Yeah. So that leaves AJ. You want to give us a little profile of what you do?
Sure, be glad to. I'll do my best because I'm just getting over either a bad virus or a COVID virus. I don't know which it is, but anyway, yeah, I'm with District 5495, which is kind of central Arizona to north central Arizona. We're a district that combined from 2 other districts a couple of years ago. So we have 2 RYLA camps, somewhat similar, somewhat differential. Probably a key element that we use when we form our groups, we have 12 groups. Each group has 1 junior counselor, which is an alumni of RYLA, still in high school generally. They also have 2 adult mentors that are there just to provide them with guidance or help if they need it as they go along. Each group is about 12 members, depending on our numbers each year. Each group is focused, we focus on a country. We require our Rotary Exchange students in our districts to come to the RYLAs. And each one is assigned a group, and each group then has the name of that country. So there's a lot of things done within the group and a couple of programmatic things that are done to kind of get students exposed to both the exchange program and different countries and different cultures. We have a number of programs that focus on leadership skills too. I feel like I'm getting a lot today. In the first program, I went to the high school RYLA program and got a lot of good ideas. So, but that's kind of our camp. The one camp, the one I happen to be the registrar for the one camp. This is what I kind of just described. And we have more adult involvement. The other camp, it leans more toward more youth involvement, running things and doing the show and all that. Each one has a great end product, we feel. And we've got a combined committee that oversees both camps. And then each camp has its own committee. Our committee is about 20 members with a core group that meets periodically for any big decisions, and the other group is more there toward the logistics and planning and getting it all done. So that's a quick nutshell anyway.
Yeah, well, that I'm glad you mentioned the point about having a kind of a theme. We've done that in our camp for a number of years, and it was we've had the teams choose, well, we chose names relating to geography, mountains, and the various other things. This year our theme is the hero's journey, and so each team will be having a theme name relating to that. But this brings up a number of factors in your discussions here, and we only have a little less than a half an hour for drilling into these. So I just wanted to quickly kind of throw up some ideas that we can look at here.
Dave?
Yeah.
Could I just mention one more thing? Everybody talks
Sure.
about our camp is 4 days, just so you know
Right.
that. So, okay.
Okay, thank you. All right,
I
so
just I have this question.
Sure.
Maybe as I'm old school, and because I've been doing this for 28 years, the virtual RYLA, we've talked about it, and my negative thing was I don't want to call it RYLA, because virtual RYLA to me will be so boring, perhaps, that I don't want people to say, oh, you don't want to go to RYLA, because RYLA to us is fabulous, interactive. We got relay, we got Olympics, and we have talent show, and we are one big 2 speakers. So it is a fabulous weekend where you're outside all the time in a beautiful camp in the mountains. And I'm just having a problem calling the virtual RYLA. Does anybody else have a problem with that?
Well, that's been a discussion in our steering committee as well. In fact, we tried to get the youth, the youth alumni excited to begin with, and they were resistant actually. And I know
it's going to be a Zoom RYLA now, and we are so sick of Zoom. And when RYLA comes up for us in April, if we do it, we'll be more sick of it, us and them.
Yeah.
Well, can I add something, for that? If by doing it international RYLA right now, this is a big trade-off, because now you're introducing your kids in your district to other kids in the world. This is a great opportunity right now for our, like one gentleman was talking about, bringing the youth exchange into RYLA, and which is a great idea. We've done it for years. But now you have the chance to connect our kids and introduce them to internationally to other people. And I think if you do that in your district, you will add so much color for your district and for your RYLA, and then the cultural mix, it adds so much to RYLA, and it's amazing. We've done it so far once, but we had multiple. I mean, over 500 people joined for 2 days. So that's probably a great trade-off to be on Zoom, or for our kids to connect with others.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, before we drill into any of these things in a specific sense, I just wanted to kind of throw out, some of the options of what we can dig into and raise questions, because I really want to hear, things that you do that are unique or innovative in a way that that raises some ideas that others of us have not thought of. So we're talking about program innovations in content, and this could be in using unique icebreaker or team bonding activities, unique topics or subjects that are raised, dealing with leadership, community, Rotary, or other aspects. Risk management is a big subject area with all overnight camps of any kind, where you have a variety of issues that are beyond just youth protection. So facilities, youth protection, of course, medical staffing, and other aspects of risk management. Communications, how do we communicate with schools, prospective campers, the parents, camp staff, other Rotarians, in terms of promoting and keeping them, keeping the concept of RYLA going. How do we deal with camp staff? We've already heard some topics about this in terms of using younger staff, getting a transitional process going, those kind of things. In terms of so recruiting them, training them, communicating with them, having them communicate with campers before camp. And then just those other enhancements, what do you provide beyond the basics, like, maybe flashlights or backpacks or bandanas or pins, or other things. Our virtual RYLA coming up, we're planning on having a RYLA in a box. So we're going to send out to every RYLA camper a box, and in it they'll have a t-shirt, they'll have other, aspects of what we do, we give out in person. So those are the topics that we have a potential to cover, and I'm sure there's some others. So having laid that foundation, who wants to throw out some, innovation or burning topic that you feel you have some insight on that we can discuss?
The biggest thing is that when you invite online and you're doing the activities online, no one can do any good activities better than the Rotary Act, the MBBI, or the Peace Scholars, because they are young people and they will understand the young people also. And most of the games that they played, they are virtually, but they are we learned a lot as adults. We learn from them now how they can entertain each other, and how they communicate, and all the surveys and stuff. And you will be on this one, and then you also will be on your phone doing some poll on some other website, so seeing the same thing. We never thought about that. So they are really innovative in these aspects, and inviting them, the Rotary Act, to come in, and the Peace Scholars, it made a biggest difference in our RYLA.
Shab,
Yeah.
Shab, do you have any? Were you able to do any recordings of any of your sessions that you can share with us?
Yes, I will. I did all of it. I recorded it on my Facebook Live in July. So I will look for it right now while you are in the sessions, and then I'll pick them up, because I record them, because I stream everything. So I will do that, and then I'll put it in the chat.
terrific. It'd be nice to see a little bit of what you did and how it works.
Great, thank you.
In fact, if anyone wants to, share in the chat with us any links to your websites or other Facebook or other resource bases, please add those in there so you can share them with each other. That's an important point here. I mean, the reason we're doing this today and the point of our task force is to create these things and put a one-stop shopping, so to speak, resource base on the zone website, and that, so that we have all kinds of resources to share. And so that's something just to kind of keep in mind that we'll be moving forward with. And if you want to be part of that, you want to help with the technology behind that in terms of sharing resources on our website, on the zone website, we'd love to have your help. Who else wants to add raise an issue? Or Shane, you're on mute.
Are we good now?
Good.
Sorry about that. I was going to mention a few things about our camp. As I mentioned, it's been around a long time. In the most recent years, we try to put in each of our 10 cabins anywhere from 10 to 12 campers. We always have 2 counselors with them overnight. One is usually an adult Rotarian, at least 90% of the time. And the other is a past graduate of RYLA that has normally a minimum of 2 years of college under their belt. We like the maturities. We've had some bad experiences with using folks that were a little younger. We brought in about 10 years ago, started doing major service projects at RYLA. The most fun one we did recently was packing food boxes at the girls' camp, where they had a challenge between the cabins and packed over 140,000 meals in 2 hours to the greatest tunes DJ you ever heard, all donated, but it was fabulous. It was one of the best grants our district has ever done. RYLA is the largest budget item in our district. And because of that, it gets a lot of recognition at any event we conduct. We're allowed to talk about, share what the kids have to say about RYLA, and it sells itself. We've got more kids than we can actually have at the camp, but that allows us to pick the strongest leaders, et cetera, to make those camps successful.
A quick question on that. So this is a budgeted item through the district?
It is. Each club donates scholarships either through their clubs or individuals in their clubs. But until this year, it was the largest budget item in the district. This year, we formed a foundation, and so now we are a separate entity falling under the guidelines of district, but our financials and everything are standalone.
Okay, got it.
The boys, just to mention, one of the service projects we're very proud of 3 years ago, we had CPR training for 2 hours where everyone became certified in CPR. And to date, we keep a log on all these boys. We follow up monthly, and we've had boys from the boys camp save 17 lives over the last 3 years due to their knowledge of CPR. And we're extremely proud of that.
Okay. All right, anybody else wants to jump in with some issue or topic?
I would mention just 2 kind of semantic changes that we've instituted over the years. Number one, we no longer refer to RYLA as a camp, nor do we refer to the participants as students or campers. The reason is that camp has such a strong connotation about kumbaya and canoes and campfires and that sort of thing. And at least in our environment, that's not at all what we are doing. We are not a camp, and we felt over the years that it was holding back some participants from coming forward, and it was leading some students to come to RYLA and be quite upset or disappointed because not a camp. The other thing that we did, maybe David, you'll remember 5 or 6 years ago in Evanston, I asked this question, is Rotary Youth Leadership Awards carved in stone, or are we free to make changes? And so we did indeed make a change. So we still use RYLA, but the A in RYLA now stands for awakening as opposed to awards, because the awards thing just never made any sense to us.
I agree. It's awkward.
Yeah, it's more than awkward. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So we spent some time brainstorming and thinking about it for a year or two, and we decided that what's really happening to students is their leadership potential is being awakened through this 5 or 6 day program. So that's the word we use now, RYLA Youth Leadership Awakening.
That's excellent.
And these are minor semantic things, but I think they're more than minor. I think they have helped to contribute to the broadening popularity of what we're doing.
I agree. I have been involved in youth leadership programming for over 40, 50 years. And I started out, in Boy Scout youth leadership training, which they've been doing for 100 years, where they created a format. And there are some small things you can do that makes the experience, the content more meaningful. And they have a lot to do with how you create bonding and identity aspects within, among your RYLA teams that you have. And, things as simple as, we use beads, for example. We have the whole camp has a set of RYLA beads, which spells out the words RYLA, and it has additional beads, which with symbolism that it represents a different aspect of Rotary or RYLA or that camp. Each team puts together a banner. Each team, does things to enhance their name. So and these activities not only create that group identity, but internally it gets these kids engaged in knowing and bonding with each other so quickly that we can do in a half a day what sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days in other camp settings. And that whole comment you made, Steve, about that moving away from that traditional camp that looks like every other camp, where we're going to do ropes, we're going to have campfire songs, you've got to find that the content that moves you away from just being another summer camp, for example. Anybody else have some thoughts? Okay.
Yeah. So RYLA, for RYLA Northwest, we're like I mentioned before, we're trying to change our program to something that's more sustainable. And in the process of that, we're kind of in a spot to completely change the entire structure. So right now we're changing, away from speakers to like leadership principles that we want to reinforce with, content such as TED Talks. And I'll also say that we still think that even in like the virtual environment that we can still add value to the participants, because usually there's juniors and seniors that get to go. And I mean, of course, RYLA is like a life-changing experience, and we still think we can add something, to their life, by doing this program. So we're actually trying to identify a book that it has a set number of leadership principles, or there's these 5 things, or there's these 10 things, something like that. And then that's based on leadership, research, years and years of research, so we don't have to hash that out. They're actually tried and true. And then having fitting those principles or whatever it would be into an outline. Right now we're going with a 4-week outline in the month of March 2021. And so basically the content and stuff, and this is just a suggestion for anyone that's considering of doing like a virtual program or how it might be undergone. I guess the big question is, are we going to do all this effort to put on this virtual program when next year, if COVID's gone, we're just going to go back to what, our amazing program from before? Well, we're trying to think through that and make this not a wasted effort. and identify elements of, I guess, like social media platforms that could carry over into the in-person environment. And so not, it sounds like there's a couple groups out here where it's very much like in the wilderness type of RYLA experience, which is not something that I'm all too familiar with. So I don't know. It sounds like the social media element is kind of removed from that, and that would be an intentional part of it. So I'd have to think through that a little bit more and see. But in terms of a just leadership activities and principles, and thinking on like the philosophical levels of how to become a leader in your community and such, we're trying to find elements of that social media that we can sure incorporate in this program, but once COVID's over and everything's back in person, we can still utilize, and it's not a complete wasted effort. So.
Well, I think you've raised a good point there. I mean, you know, there is this conversation that virtual RYLA is not a RYLA, and we've had that conversation. But I had a conversation with Art Harrington regarding what Arizona is doing, and they are doing these virtual programs not as a replacement of the camp, but as a tool to engage youth and get them excited about being in a real camp environment. And so in terms of, you know, what's going to happen in the next year or two, I don't think it'll all, I think we're going to build on what we have done virtually and use that as a tool throughout the year. When I took over our RYLA camp, you know, I wanted it to be more than a blip in a calendar year. And so it became a full year program. We created this RYLA alumni group that continued to meet month after month. And from that, we've cultivated new camp staff leaders and program leaders. So there are other tools we can use to enhance what RYLA is. In my club actually is taking the RYLA curriculum, and we've created a program called Action Leadership Program with students to deliver a RYLA type of leadership experience specifically in schools. And so we're opening up, we're in the second year of a pilot program on that. Our club has invested $200,000 into this pilot. And we have a paid program staff leader who's developing it. So RYLA can be more and can grow into more different things, but you know there are all kinds of innovations that can depart from what RYLA has been that can make it farther. We have a few years ago chosen to take Barry Posner's 5 practices of exemplary leadership and make that a core of content in the. Are any of you familiar with this concept? A little bit. I mean, you know, Posner and his partner, I can't remember his name, developed this through research over 30 years ago, and they've fine-tuned it. And we said, you know, we need to do something. I mean, if we're putting a stake in the ground, and our stake is on leadership, that we're building leadership. And so we created our content core to using the tools of RYLA to make that something, make it happen. So those are the kind of innovations that I hope, you know, using technology and you know keeping the culture of what a live RYLA experience is going, we will expand. Any other thoughts? We've got about 5 minutes left.
David, so in lieu of last 2020's RYLA, what we did is we decided to we hosted a virtual RYLA for our alumni network. So anyone that's been a part of the camp since the first year, counselors came back and we had a space just to kind of check in, see how folks are doing. And then typically we have on Thursdays, the Dave Diddle barbecue, which all the Rotarians help sponsor. But in lieu of that, since we couldn't have anything, we had I think it was Dave Diddle, I think we called it Dave Diddle Dialogues. And for what that happened was all of the Rotarians within 5170 were able to come and experience some of the leadership modules modified. And so what my charge is for this year is to think about how this virtual RYLA curriculum that I'm developing will then become transferable to host that kind of space for our Rotarians who want to be more involved, kind of get to see more about what's going on. And so that's how we're trying to adopt that. But I agree. I think we've had to have many conversations. I think we've had 3 back-to-back Sunday meetings in planning this, that we have to just be really honest that a lot of the things that work in person, we just have to know that it's not going to be the same, but we can still create some type of environment, some type of space for the campers. And also knowing that we're experiencing this pandemic. So trying to carve out a space for the young folks to be able to talk about what that means to be, on one day in March, we just essentially say bye to your friends and you can't go back, right? So being able to also weave that into the setting as well has been part of our charge. It's not been an easy feat, because it's, for me, I've been involved with camp almost 20 years. This will be my 3rd time transferring Camp RYLA. We used to be at a YMCA camp where it was a lot of canoes, high ropes, all that, but that fell through. And then now we're at a conference center. It's a little bit more dormitory style. So the campers are actually in their own rooms, four to a room. And then the counselors don't sleep in that room. They're in a different area. So it's a lot more similar to like a visiting like a college. So like that kind of university immersion. We've had some challenges, but we've had a lot of learning in that too. So
I would like to share one more thing, Dave, about how we can connect our RYLA with the Rotarians or Rotaract. So what we've done on one of the camps, we asked the alumni RYLA 5 years ago to come in for the camp while we're holding the camp, and we took them to one side and we got to connect with them for half a day only. So, and what we've done at the same time, we asked them if they want to connect forever, and they said how about if we can form a Rotaract club, community-based Rotaract club from you. And they agreed, and you know what? We chosen the president, vice president, secretary, everybody. We have a Rotaract club right there on the spot, and they're still connected. So that's how a step forward to connect the RYLArian to Rotaract and then to Rotary International.
And I don't remember what district it is, but in one of the districts, the RYLA program, they created a passport club, a Rotary passport club for those who've graduated out of RYLA, in order to keep the connected.
I just want to say, you're all people of action, and you're all building peace. So thank you very much for your session. I know the session's gonna. There we go.
All right. Well, thanks so much for everybody's comments.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chris, you got a lot of patience managing all the tech on this, so good job. Kudos to you.
Yeah, no kidding. I could. There's no way I could have handled that. It's amazing. Great job.
The same, like 5 or 6 people.
Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. All of the breakout rooms have been closed. So this last part is an opportunity to share. And I believe either Art or David are going to be leading. But I do want to, our wonderful youth protection guru, Mike Cotier, sent me a file earlier, about an hour ago, a few minutes ago, actually. So I'm going to put it in the chat. It's a consideration from RI itself on virtual RYLA and electronic online safety consideration. So I will drop that in the chat box. And Art or David, which one of you are taking this away?
I think I am.
Ron.
First thing I'd like to do is thank the the RYLA virtual conference team who put this together under Art Harrington's leadership. He's been the steamroller behind this and our October virtual conference, and it's been just he's done a yeoman's effort. I think everybody needs to give him a big round of applause. Art, you've just done a wonderful job. And along with Art, Lorraine Hartson, Mary Hoskins, Chris Miller, and I have tried to give you some kind of experience today where you can work together and share. And I hope that you have accomplished that. So the last few minutes of our sessions together, I would like to get some people who are, some of you want to, point out something you learned today, something that you learned and maybe you're going to take back to your camp and use it. And if you don't have, if we don't have room for everybody to do that in the in a live session, you can add the information to your chat and give us your feedback. But before we start, the final thing I want to mention is that we are a task force that is committed to creating a resource base at the zone level. So there's going to be like a one-stop shop for all kinds of youth programming information, whether it be examples of forms or documents or videos or best practices. And we would appreciate your opportunity to join us in some capacity there as part of the task force team putting together, the resource base. I would certainly love to have, people who would take on a specific role in that area. So if you want to, you can send me an email or just contact anybody on our task force team, and we'll find a place for you to be of assistance. So having said that, who wants to give us something that you've learned that you're going to try and use in your experiences going forward?
In our middle school program, Sally Swanson was kind of asking where we're going next. We want to, as we were cut off and brought back. You want, Sally?
I've just been very moved, and I want to thank you. I'm an architect that designs schools, so to see these kids having a phenomenal time means a lot to me. And in this COVID period, it's very hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for everybody. So how are we going to continue this energy? How are we going to do it online? How are we going to bring people together, not only leading it, but the kids getting involved? And I wish we could spend some time and energy in a month working as a group to define that and come up with ideas.
Okay. Someone else? We know you guys aren't shy.
I would say I learned quite a bit today here from the two breakout rooms. It's been very, very useful, very inspiring. Here in Hawaii, we put quite a bit of work into just what was just stated there. Just how are we going to do this and trying to make it work. And I'm still, how are we going to do this is still in my mind because we haven't done it yet. But I'm inspired by what folks have done and ideas that have come from this. And in the last breakout room, I was found it kind of interesting. So we talked about doing something more on the national level and even maybe international as a possibility. So any of you motivated folks that want to spearhead that would be kind of cool too. Yeah. So it's been a good workshop. I appreciate you guys doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, David, I found it very empowering to have all this energy that's all over to synergize. And I think that raising the consciousness about the COVID thing, we're really close to crossing the finish line. But this is not the time to let up. So be real cautious about it. But I think the thing the one thing that stood out above everything else is purpose. Having a purpose, getting the kids to recognize that there's a purpose they can have in life and something to look towards. I think some of us don't even know what ours is, even at this late age. We search for something, but I think reinforcing that was a paramount idea I got out of today's session. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Anybody else? If you either raise your hand or step forward. Yeah, Eve?
Hi. I think out of all of this, I think that we have a lot more to learn from Kate and Colton and Asa, the folks who've already done at least one virtual RYLA. And I think that as has probably become evident to everyone, virtual will always have a place, no matter whether we're in the middle of a COVID crisis or any other kind. And so to have even just a virtual prelude and then have your in-person camp, and to learn from them and not recreate the wheel, as we Rotarians definitely do not like to do. So to really conserve our energies and to make sure that we're spending time on new ideas and not recreating them. Finally, I think one of the most valuable things that came out of it for me with the virtual section, the virtual breakout, was no speakers. I don't know how many of you actually attended that, but it completely changed the direction that I'm going to take. Everything needs to be interactive. I think we all know, if we admitted just from attending this very well put together session, that there's only so much time you can sit and listen to people talking at you. And so which makes me want to make my comments brief. Anyhow, no speakers is really kind of a revelation. It's very different from what all of us, I'm 53, all of us have experienced conferences and horrible PowerPoint, presentations where all the person does is repeat what's on their slides. And, this is a turning point for all of us, and we really need to be paying attention to the Kates and the Coltons and the Aces. And of course, I'll probably leave somebody out, but, and not spending a whole lot of time on ourselves and what we're here to learn, but let the people who know something speak, and then maybe we can talk afterwards or reintroduce ourselves and and do what we're doing now. So thank you so much for putting this together.
Yeah, well, thank you, Eve. I appreciate your comments. I have one question. How many people here would like to have another one of these? Not necessarily just like this, but maybe, either smaller groups or another format or something, but another opportunity to have a live, connection. Wow, look at that. So Art, are we going to have a part 2?
I think the sky's the limit of what we can do. We are planning next to have a RYLA, or rather, an Interact, and then we will have one for youth exchange, one for youth protection. Those are on our horizon. We don't have exact dates yet, but those are coming up, and then we can always expand and add to. One of the things we'd like to do down the line too is to be able to give some opportunity for our student leaders to talk to each other, as well as our adult leaders.
The task force is meeting on Monday night for our monthly meeting, and so we will discuss what's next, and if there's opportunities for us to do something with this RYLA opportunity.
Chris, I think that all of us on this call have to do a virtual RYLA in the next 9 months. I would love to have some more assistance or opportunities, or just to let us know how it's going to start shaping up. I know we're all sitting here going, well, that's a great idea, but how are we all going to go forward? I'd love to have another meeting like this.
An interesting thing about the virtual RYLAs is that they could be opened up to larger groups.
Well, that's what we mentioned in one of our things is, could we do a big RYLA?
Yeah.
So this is a crazy idea. I invited several other districts to join us. I contacted a district in Australia. No district has wanted to pair with us to do a joint program.
Are you?
And I understand, I'm totally serious. And I understand that we all have pride in what we do. I would say that we have no pride. We realize that we have a lot to learn from other districts. Our committee is composed of members of or alumni of many programs. And so we're open to that. Certainly if we were to do it, we're so close that we'd have to probably push back later. But I think that would be phenomenal. The power of Rotary is our ability to connect across cultures and geography. And we love RYLA exchanges, sending students cross country. We're down, we're in.
Hey, when is
Hey,
your,
that's so
when is
great to
your
hear.
schedule? When is your schedule?
Ours is currently scheduled for March. And like I said, we paired with District 7490. I will tell you, it is a cultural shock for crunchy PNW, you know, easygoing kids to meet with New Yorkers. I think there's a lot of power in us working across geography to really learn from one another and to show that even in the United States, there's a lot of cultural difference.
I shared with our group about RYLA Ukraine, and that was an international RYLA that we established 2 years ago. And this summer we held an international virtual RYLA, and we had over 720 entries. 510 attended the 2 days RYLA, and it was a great cultural mix together. And it was a great opportunity to see MBBI, Peace Scholars, and also Rotaract included and joined in to get this RYLA done. And what was interesting, the moderators who put like a TV show on, it was from Pakistan. So it was multiple countries, multiple districts, over 35 districts that got into it. And now we are building one for this summer, 28, 29, 30, and 31st of July. It will be hybrid. We will hold it in Ukraine, but it will be also hybrid online. So that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of production also. So it is a great thing to see, because a lot of people right now, they're talking about, you know, it's online, it's virtual, it's not the same. But you know what? The trade-off would have people from international come in and join and show our kids, and our kids be introduced to international people. The trade-off is amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
That's inspiring.
Yeah.
So I'd like
Joan,
to say,
go ahead.
Kate, you can expect an invitation from me for our next RYLA committee meeting. Because District 5020 is an international district, and in both RYLA Northwest and RYLA Vancouver Island like to have students from both countries. And even if we could meet in person on Vancouver Island, we can't have our American counterparts with us. So I'm hoping that doing a virtual RYLA Vancouver Island will actually allow us to have more students involved, and certainly more students from the US involved, and then build keen interest in having them come in person when they can. Because we find it for both, and I think Kate will agree with me, that with both those RYLAs, by having students from the two countries there, it's a hugely rich experience for those students.
I just want to add one more thing. The Peace Corps in Ukraine, they have 300 Peace Corps. 12 of the Peace Corps were discussion group leaders in these RYLAs. And who else? The young Peace Corps come in and talk to these young people and hold some sessions with them. It was amazing. We learned as elders. It was a learning experience for us, not only just to help them. We help them financially, but it was a complete learning experience for us, how they can entertain each other and keep each other connected, with music, with the games and all this stuff. I'm amazed.
All right, time for a couple of more comments. So before we have to sign off, so anybody have?
Well, this is Tim. I had a comment to answer your question in regards to takeaways. I think that even as we're moving to virtual, it's so important to find physical ways to connect with the kids and for them to connect with everybody else. So I didn't hear it brought up at this conference, but in September, somebody had mentioned sending out RYLA care packages or survival kits. So we're having each of our 108 RYLA participants receive a box that's going to have their t-shirts and other materials and things to help them be physically connected and engaged, even though we're virtual. What I loved about the conversation about the high school RYLA that somebody mentioned was the idea of students writing letters to their future selves. And it occurred to me that that could be a great part of our package that we're going to be sending out, that we can have 2 envelopes, one that a student puts their letter to themselves inside, and then another envelope that they mail that to a RYLA coordinator who will then commit to sending it back to the student, you know, in 6 months or a year or whatever the time frame is. So again, physical things, even in the midst of this virtual reality. Thank you.
Yeah, that's excellent.
I want to be one of the last positive people to say that I believe that virtual will be here forever, but I believe that we can go back to actual RYLA, and I'm hoping with what's coming up in vaccines by next June. I do think by the middle of the next year, we will be back to being able to have RYLA in live format.
I appreciate that comment. I think we're at the end of our show. Chris, any as a chair of our task force committee, any closing thoughts? You're still on mute.
Yes, that is the quote of the year. You're on mute. So thank you everyone for participating. And again, thank you so much to Art Harrington for leading this group, for David for being MC, and all the members of our task force. Greatly appreciate it. And stay tuned for further information about our next activities. And feel free to reach out. I will put my personal email address in case you want to reach out to me directly. But if you want to reach out to the group, please send a note to that the zone email address that I've listed earlier, which I will repost momentarily. So thank you, everyone. And with that, we have a minute and 25 seconds remaining. So we are going to.
Chris, one thing I would like to add is when we're holding it online and hybrid, that allowed also challenge kids that cannot attend physically, that they can attend also online. So we'll be more inclusive in our RYLAs.
Right.
Someone had asked for a list of all of our virtual RYLAs so far. Basically, you've seen both of them. This is something a lot of people are talking about, but so far, just these 2 that we featured today are ones that have actually happened in our zones. And so each of these will tell you it's a work in progress. They're learning from things that did work, didn't work. And so don't hesitate to contact them and learn from what they have experienced so far. Thanks so much. I'm so excited about all of you, the tremendous people that are committed to helping our youth through our RYLA programs.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Hawaii's got one coming up February 13th, a virtual one for middle school. So that's going to be really something to keep an eye on. District 5000.
Love it. You are all people of action and you are peace builders, each one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.